Architecture is a tool to improve lives. She became internationally known in 2007 with the construction of the METI School in Rudrapur, Bangladesh, which she designed as her diploma thesis at the University of Art and Design, Linz. Since then, Heringer has further developed and disseminated her award-winning architectural approach through buildings in Asia, Africa, and Europe, as well as through teaching architecture at the University of Liechtenstein, Harvard University, ETH Zurich, among others. Her central concern is to use architecture as a catalyst for local development, particularly through the use of natural building materials, such as earth, bamboo, and wood, and the participation of users in the construction process. Her work has been exhibited worldwide, including the MoMA New York, the Cité de l'Architecture à Paris, the Museo ICO Madrid, the V&A Museum London, and the Venice Biennale. She has received numerous awards for her work, including the Aga Khan Award for Architecture, the Global Award for Sustainable Architecture, the Keystone Design Prize, the New European Bauhaus Prize 2021, the Philippe Rotthier European Prize for Architecture 2021, the OBEL Award 2020, and the Archdaily Building of the Year 2020. UNESCO awarded her an honorary professorship for Earthen Architecture, Building Cultures, and Sustainable Development. In 2022, she was honored with the Order of Merit by Germany's Federal President Steinmeier. Besides being an architect, activist, and educator, she is the CEO of Dipti Textiles, a women's collaboration for fair fashion and textile art, an author and a mother. Her motto in design practice and life is simply, form follows love. So please, for Form Follows Love, help me welcome Anna Heringer.
Thank you. Warm welcome to all. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person, but at least technology makes it possible to be together. I'm trying to share my, Victoria. I'm unfamiliar with the program, so I need to get some help. This is Victoria. No. I don't know how to share the screen. Okay, thank you. Yes, architecture to me is a tool to improve life, first and foremost. But I'm also very well aware that with our profession, we also contribute to the destruction of our planet's resources, and we also contribute to social injustice because we usually serve the powerful and the rich and not so much those who really need us. But I'm a very stubborn idealist. I firmly believe that we can do better with our profession and that we can build up buildings, and at the same time we can build up communities. This picture shows a study trip I did with my students from Zurich, from ETH Zurich. And it was the end of October. It was in the mountains in Austria. It was really cold. It was at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. You still have the ice crystals on the ground. And I surprised the group with the challenge and the news that there was no accommodation or hotel or any room booked for the night, but that it was the challenge for every future architect in this group to build shelter for themselves with whatever they could find. And of course, the reactions were mixed. There are the outdoor freaks in Switzerland. Of course, you thought, yeah, we're gonna, stay outside all night and we're gonna build. And then, but that was the smaller group, and the medium group was just thinking, there must be a plan B, but there was no plan B. And the third part was quite shocked, but everyone participated. And we all survived. It was rather cold. It was not really luxurious, but it brought us back
Anna,
to the, yeah?
Anna, sorry to interrupt you. I don't know, because here it's fixed to the first slide. It's still on the first slide.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. No, don't worry.
Yeah, let's try again. Can you see it now?
Yes.
You see it different?
Yes, we see 3 persons under, I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
sure.
Now,
Is it very natural organic shelter.
Yeah, is it moving?
Now, no.
Aha. Yeah, maybe we stick it.
Yes, now it's moving.
Maybe just stay like that. And now, is it moving?
We see people walking, taking a hike. Yeah.
And how long does it take to shift? So I'm shifting the slides now.
It's not shifting yet.
Okay, then it needs to stay in that view.
Oh, now it shifted.
It shifted. So it just takes
yes,
time.
and now it shifted.
Okay. All right. I know it just needs some time. But it was a great learning experience for all of us that actually there are so many resources given by nature for free. And all that we need is the sensitivity to see those resources and the creativity to use them. And I had also a great learning experience when I was 19 years old in Bangladesh. I was a development learner going, just wanted to see life from a different perspective and learning from a Bangladeshi NGO called Deepshika. And what I learned there in the northern part of Bangladesh was that the most effective strategy for resilience and for really sustainability is always to look at the resources you have in your direct surrounding and not getting depending on external factors. And this is what I tried to do with my architecture. Then several years later, I started studying architecture in Linz. And then when I did my diploma project, I came back to that village, to Rudrapur, and I designed a school for that village. And in terms of building materials, I didn't have to look far. They were right under my feet, the mud, the dirt, and the bamboo that was growing all around. And in terms of energy resources, it was people. And when we think of energy these days, we think of oil, we think of sun, wind, we think of gas, but we sometimes tend to forget that each and every one of us is a source of energy too. And we are a growing source with 8 billion people. And the source also wants to be needed, because if we are all unemployed, we also create a social problem. So including a lot of craftsmanship in my buildings is key in every context. This was the site, completely unplugged. So we only had people and animal power. We had 3 drilling machines that would be charged in the night. But other than that, it was completely unplugged. And this is how the school looked after 6 months of construction.
So, Anna, sorry, I'm interrupting you again, because we don't see the picture. Maybe if you run the show, if you like slideshow and you start it.
Okay.
Yes, yes, now it's moving.
But so maybe then I just stick in this overview if this is Yeah, I think it should.
Yes.
Did you see those pictures?
We didn't. Yeah, no, we didn't see those. But now it's moving very well. Now it's working well.
So after 6 months of construction, the school looked like this. I had ICO Madrid with me because I was just a student when I it was my diploma project, so I needed support in the building. But I can only recommend this to students. The normal way is you end your student life and then you go and work for some accomplished architects, but then you're just walking in the footsteps of the previous generation, which can be good. But in case of architecture, I'm not so sure about this, because this generation caused dramatic climate change, and I think we need new ways. We need to probably look in way older footsteps, like in some decades ago, to really go back to a sustainable way of building. But I think it's a wonderful moment after your university just to go out in the field, test your Haltung, find your own identity and what really matters to you, and test it, and not get disillusioned, you know, by the hamster wheel in a way, and just, you know, saying, okay, because I think if I had done this, I would not have believed that you can do architecture the way I'm doing now, and that you can make a living out of it, and that life takes care of you. So I think it's really important to test your ideas and to find your Haltung just right after university, because we need new solutions in architecture in order to make it more sustainable. We kept the, is it moving? Victoria, is it moving?
Yes, it's moving now.
Okay.
Perfectly.
Thank you. So we kept the tradition to stick be at the ground, which is the culture in rural Bangladesh, and through these caves in the back wall, you come to the cave area, and well, my briefing of the client was, you know, to design a building that where the children want to go there every day, that they're really excited to go inside. And I was trying to remember the spaces that I loved when I was a kid, and that were like this very archaic kind of protective areas, such as caves. But I think everyone can relate to it. It can be caves in different ways. It can be, you know, sitting on a table with table closed down and where you feel protected, but you can hear everything, or you're sitting in the crown of a tree where you're protected by the leaves from the views of others, but you can peek through and see everything. And that's exactly the situation that I built here. So they are protected, but they still can peek through and are connected with the group and not disconnected. And I think this is something very important, that you yourself feel protected, but you never lose the contact to the extended group. And the top is then more, you know, the other archaic pattern, the tree house, where you have the overview and it's airy and it's light. And it also shows, of course, the capacities of these two building materials, clay and bamboo. The children all signed with the names on the doors, and they rightfully did so because they also helped building the school. So, of course, in the morning they had normal classes, but in the afternoon they came to our site and helped building. And usually in the afternoon they have creative classes. So they did have creative classes. Normally they have pottery and things like this, and they have pottery in a slightly bigger scale, the scale of a building. And that is what I love about mud, because you cannot do this with every building material. There are building materials that are toxic. There are building materials that require sophisticated tools that can potentially harm you. But with clay, you can really involve everybody. We had people with disabilities included, of course, men and women. We had elderly people who usually would be too old for our site, and we had children joining us as volunteers. So it is a very inclusive material that really allows participation at its best. And I guess you can all imagine how it feels when you're standing in front of your school as a small girl or a small boy, and you know, I built this school with nothing but the dirt underneath my feet and my own muscles. That gives such a boost of confidence in your own potential and resources, but also in the team around you, because you never build it alone. You always build in teams. And then also in the local building materials that usually have a very bad image. So to me, mud is the champion when it comes to sustainable and regenerative architecture. Why? It's the only material that I can take from the ground, build load-bearing walls, floors, and plasterings and all sorts of things, even domes. And you can easily repair it. Just, you know, if something's breaking, you just put water on the spot and make it wet again, put it back, it looks as before. And you can recycle it as often as you want without any loss of quality. Normally, when we talk about recycling, you know, we mean downcycling. We need to add a lot of energy or aggregates again to make it a good quality. But with clay, you just need to add water. And if you don't need the building anymore, you just give it back to the ground it came from, and you plant a garden on top. And that's no other material that can do that just like this. So it is very important also to know that mud can stay a long time. It's always thought, you know, to be a non-durable material. Well, if you use certain techniques, you need a good foundation. That's the only part where I'm using cement. Other than that, I'm there's nothing, no cement in the walls. It's just a pure clay, and in this case also some straw. And then you need a good roof, and you need a good mix in craftsmanship. But then earthen buildings can stand for centuries in every climate zone. We have examples, and in every cultures. When it comes to economics, usually in that context, it's always, low cost, low cost, low cost. But for me, there's something else that is more important, and that's the question, cui bono, who profits, who gets the profit? So what I saw when, in every evening, the workers queued to get the money, the salary of the day, and then together we often went to the local market, and I could see how they reinvested the building budget, and it was reinvested in vegetables from the neighbors, or bicycle got repaired, or they went to the tailor and got a new clothes. So the building budget did not just have a building as a result, but it was also a catalyst for local development. And that was the part that made me mostly happy, because if I had built this or designed the school with concrete and steel, that money would have been exported and not useful for or helpful for the community. So that question for me is always in my mind when I'm designing and deciding for a building material. We are quite powerful as a profession, because if we add up all the building budgets that go through our hands as architects, we come up with millions. And this is a big amount of money. So the choice of a building material ultimately defines who is getting the profit and whom we're supporting. And through this, we really can contribute to social justice or not. And we need to be aware of that responsibility. I did several projects in Rudrapur, and the last one is the Ananda Loy Building, a center for people with disabilities, and a textile workshop. And unlike the other buildings that are very rectangular and straight, like the METI School, and it was also important to show that you can do precise architecture with this most humble and modest materials. But with this one, I wanted to show, that it's good that we have people that break out of the mold, and that they are different, and it's something joyful and something to celebrate. And diversity is beautiful. So that building literally dances out of the mold and breaks out of the mold and dances in curves. And when you approach the building, first you see is the ramp that winds up all around the building. And already during this construction site, it was a question, people were coming and asking, why do you need a ramp? And then you're immediately at the core of the discussion, why inclusivity is important. And that is also one powerful thing about architecture, that it can put spotlight on people that usually are overlooked, or can, bring content and visions very easily, clearly to the forefront. That's the therapy rooms in the ground floor. And underneath the ramp, we also have a cave area. And it's differently shaped than the one in METI School. You can slide in or glide in from the ground without needing to step, and you need to move your body more difficult through these spaces than at METI. And it's a therapy tool. It's purposely done so, because you coordinate your muscles when you do so. And normally, if you have physical therapy, we have a tool, we climb up, we go down, we climb up, we go down, and it's rather boring. But through this, they can crawl through and discover a little universe. So the building becomes a tool of therapy in that case too. This is how the ramp in bamboo and clay is just going upwards. And then in the second floor, or the first floor, we have the workshop for dipped textiles. And usually as an architect, you're responsible for the building, but in my case, I'm also responsible for the program that's happening inside. And we all know that the government sector is heavily exploiting Bangladesh, and we wanted to show a different way of doing clothes made in Bangladesh with the textiles, where women not just get a fair salary, but also a really good working environment where they just support each other and help each other grow. And it's wonderful to see how the women have developed over the course of the years, and it's just scenes like this you wouldn't find in a normal factory building. Yeah, so we do fashion with those clothes, and no matter if it's with architecture or textiles or any other thing, it's always the same principle. Local materials, local energy sources, especially people, craftsmanship, and global knowledge, global creativity. I think that's the one thing that should not be limited to a place. And that's what we're doing just now. So we have access to information regardless where we are at the planet. And that's beautiful. We can, you know, collect this information and then apply it to our own local conditions and create local solutions with that global knowledge. We are hopping to China now. I was invited to take part of a bamboo biennale in Baozi, a small village, and together with 12 other architects like Kenko Kuma and others. And the aim was to prove that you can build with old materials also in a modern way. And I'm happily participated because I'm often asked, you know, do you want to send us back to Stone Age? But no, definitely not. But it's not a matter how old a material is. It's a matter of our creative ability to make it look contemporary and modern. And I was commissioned for 3 hostels. And the core is a solid core out of stone and rammed earth. And then attached to this core, there are the sleeping cones of the boys and girls, and just like tents. And inside there's all the utility rooms, and around is a woven structure out of bamboo, open bamboo. I hope the video works for you. And that's how the core is built, with stone and rammed earth, with our very traditional materials in China. But of course, you might say, yeah, this is maybe possible in a small village, but the reality looks like this, and it's true. But all these people have lived before in vernacular structures, and that trend is happening everywhere in the world. We're leaving our traditional buildings materials to go for concrete and steel, and we need an enormous amount of electricity and energy first to create those structures, and then also to cool them or to heat them, because they cannot deal very well with the climate. And that kind of trend is something we cannot just continue. We clearly need alternatives. And I strongly believe that building with earth is a very important effort that we have to do, and have to continue to do that, because earth is available everywhere in every culture, in every continent, in every place. If we dig down, there's the earth. And so everyone has access, and we can build with it in high-tech modes of construction and low-tech, depending on the context. And I think that's the only way how we can contribute to healing our planet, and also to contribute to social justice. So if you think this is just not possible or it's just possible in rural areas, well, this dense city space of the city of Shibam in Yemen was built 500 years ago. So if this was built 500 years, and if this was possible 500 years ago, we should be able, with all the technologies and knowledge that we have accumulated since then, to build it today as well. So how do you do a modern earthen structure? That is the rammed earth factory of my colleague and collaborator Martin Rauch in Austria. He's an expert or probably the leading expert in earthen structures globally. And what he does, he has this long shuttering for rammed earth. He has machinery that does it quite automatically, the ramming, the heavy work. And then this long wall, rammed earth wall, is cut into single pieces and then mounted on site to multi-story buildings. And this is the site I'm working right now in Germany, Center for Sustainability, St. Michael. And that's how I'm designing on large clay models. And then the pieces are really mounted together. And then the joints, this is how the inside looks like, quite archaic, solid walls. And then you see on the down part, you can't recognize that it has been built out of several blocks of clay. So it's being retouched simply by putting in the same material in these joints, and then it looks completely monolithic, and you don't see It looks completely monolithic. Another building in Germany, designed together with Martin Rauch, is a health center, Ayurveda center in Rosenheim. And it is close to an alluvial forest. So it's a sensitive natural spot. So we wanted to have the building built out of those materials. It's load-bearing timber. It's a willow facade, which is the main tree in a woven facade. It's the main plant and tree in that alluvial forest. And inside, we have also a lot of clay. The building also sort of nestles in the surrounding. We really didn't want to have it like a massive piece of architecture, but more like a sensitive structure that really nestles in the surrounding. Yeah, inside we have a lot of clay for many reasons, partially acoustic, but also clay balances the indoor humidity perfectly like no other material, especially good for monsoon regions, of course, but also for us. We have also quite rainy parts of the year and also very dry ones. So it's just a perfect kind of humidifier or dryer within the rooms. And it also grounds you psychologically, mentally. It's really something that, you know, brings you down. And we're often, we are very much under pressure with perfection these days. You know, if you look at Instagram or all the social media, we are always trying, you know, to make everything picture perfect. But natural materials have their inner life. They have their imperfections. And people that are going to stay in this building, they're usually exhausted, mentally, physically weak. And when you are in a perfect surrounding, you feel even more as an alien. And normally, if we enter indoor rooms, we're cut off nature. And what we get as feedback there is, yes, you enter a room, but you still feel part of nature and you feel embraced by nature. And that gives a very, it gives a feeling of comfort and you start to relax, you start to open up your senses, and that's supporting the healing process, of course. So future building, I think it's very important to have, you know, these sort of materials: earth, timber, bamboo, natural fibers for insulations. I believe this is the future. We stay a bit in the Austrian, German region, the Alpine region. So this is in Austria. I was commissioned together with Anka Dürr and Martin Rauch and Sabrina Sommer for a birth space, a space for giving birth. And it was, for me, first moment when I heard about this, it was like, oh, I thought we have developed building technologies for every sort of purpose as architects community and society, but apparently we haven't found a typology for the biggest creative act a human being, a woman, can do, which is giving birth to another human being. And it also tells quite a story about our profession and about society. Yes, we have found a functional way to solve this. We can go to the hospital to deliver. But, you know, I mean, the creation of a new life or the beginning of a new life is not just something that happens on a purely biological, functional level. That is also more involved than that. It's sort of a miracle. So we wanted to give a space for that. And we haven't found sponsors for that project in the beginning. No company wanted to take part of it. But we found 400 women in the rural areas who said, yes, we want that. It's important to talk about that. So they not only devoted their money, but also their time. And we had a lot of women, of course, working on the site. And we prefabricated out of clay, straw clay bricks, a structure, quite a belly, so the baby's due soon, that would resolve in the rainy climate of Austria. So we protected it with lots of wooden shingles, and it looks like this in the end. That's the ground floor. One of our designers and architects is also midwife, so she tested the different birthing positions, and this is how it looks now. So it is this archaic space, this cave, and it has, of course, earth as a main material, which is, you know, we call it Mother Earth, so it's probably the most motherly material you can have, and that kind of receives the baby in the new world. And we also have a garden with herbs, especially, you know, for the female body, healing plants. And this is how it is located in the surrounding. And I remember when we were so many women on the site, I was really hoping that we include more female elements in architecture. And I'm not just talking about more women in architecture, but also more female aspects. You know, usually we are so trained in efficiency, we are trained to, you know, do the research for the most newest material, all this conquering of new areas, and then new heights, you know, going higher and bigger and everything. And but I think we and then of course processes that are really easily to control and as effective as possible. But I think there is more that we need to include, because this way of thinking about architecture has also created the problem that we are in now, which is the climate change. So if we include also the caring aspects and the aspects of intuition, and not just thinking, you know, to reach a goal and aim as effective as possible, but also to do it with a good process, to design the process at the same time as we're designing the building. These are the female aspects I would wish that we include more. So this, for example, is it's quite a symbol for the male efficient thinking. On the left side, you see the master plan I received from Ghana, which is a campus for education. So it is designed in a way that you have the perfect control over an area, and on the right side you see the reality, which is, you know, a beautiful diversity of shapes and sizes and proportions. It's very lively. So what I tried to include those kind of qualities into that master plan. So here you see again the traditional houses, all built in earth. And I did, you know, I always cut out my models in clay, and I did really a clay storming here and tried to include those interior courtyard spaces for storytelling, because knowledge traditionally is transmitted by storytelling in Africa, but you need the spaces for storytelling. So these were included as an important element in this planning. And then, you know, comes to the site, built in a completely low-tech way, Atakpama technique, as they call it there, without any formwork, just molding the walls with your hands. And here you see in the beginning, I mean, that's how I designed the windows in a very rectangular way. And this is how they were built in the beginning. But then the women came and they started plastering those windows, and they did it by hand, and they started plastering like this, because you don't do it like this with your hand, you do it like this. And that's then how the window shape came out. And that's what I love so much. This is real co-creation. You design something, and then, you know, on the site with the people involved, something completely different emerges, which has much more strength and much more authenticity and beauty than I could have designed it on my desk in Germany. Yeah, clay is so wonderful. So we really do a lot of ornamentation as well, and as something, you know, I'm always trying to build buildings, not just, you know, that look like fake brick buildings or concrete buildings. No, I want to do clay buildings that where you can really see, hey, this can be only done with clay, because, you know, you cannot do this with a cement plastering. It would hurt you deeply with the fingers. So this is really something you do when you work with clay and bring in all these different cultures and aspects. And you would say, you know, this is a classic way for, it's a classic female work. I thought so in the beginning, you know, and included all the women and children came to help the mothers. They came every day in the afternoon because they enjoyed it so much. And then, you know, and I was very hesitant first, you know, the boys were observing and I was hesitating to include them. But then what happened is, you know, they enjoyed it so much, you know, not to need to, you know, show their strength all the time and show, you know, the being loud all the time and show their testosterone all the time. But they really enjoyed it also to bring out the tender parts and a more caring part. So I think, you know, this is the wonderful thing with working with clay. You have the parts where you need your muscles and you need to ram and you get all your power out of yourself. But then there are also these elements, you know, where you can really do the refined work. So it kind of activates every part and every side of yourself. And I think it's also in a way a therapeutic thing. Yeah, showing the last project now, designed again with Martin Rauch. And what I learned in building in contexts like Bangladesh or Ghana is that the process is just as important as the outcome. And usually we learn to design buildings when we are at university, but we usually don't learn how to design the processes. But that's equally important because there is so much social power in the process, so much power to transform and to build up community. And this is as equally as important as the building itself. So Martin Rauch and me, we were invited to take part of a competition for an altar, the cathedral in Worms. It is a 1,000-year-old cathedral. It was the anniversary, and it has a very famous altar interior. And but they were lacking like the major piece. So they made a competition and several architects and sculptors, artists were invited, and they all created beautiful objects that were, you know, designed and created somewhere and then implanted in the cathedral. And Martin Rauch and me, we said, no, we don't want to come with a ready-made object. We propose we come with the tools. And then we invite the community to build the altar out of the local soil. And that's what we did. So the community came together and rent the altar with the soil, and everyone participated. You know, from the elderly people to, you know, the choir, the altar boys and girls, kindergarten kids were coming. It was really beautiful feeling of community. And in the beginning, it was, you know, thought, you know, we bring in historic elements in this structure, like from the Roman Empire, stones and things like this. And then you know, it was, it was also broadcasted in the radio and the newspaper. And then people started to bring their own personal items to include it in the structure. So they brought, for example, an important letter that was really dear to them, or an amulet from a necklace from the grandmother, you know, that was given to them as a remembrance. And then they brought, you know, the best honey of the region, the best wine of the region, or, you know, newspaper articles. They were proud of events as a community. So all these things got into this altar, and it really became a community object. And the kids were also mixing the clay with their hands, and they decided to put in some pink glitter that you can see now in the thing. The priest was not so excited about the pink glitter. He was afraid that this would not really fit well with all the gold and ancient parts in the back. But the altar just glitters on a little part in pink. And then the kids were ramming with their feet and densifying the earth and singing all the way. And then the moment comes, you know, where the shuttering comes off and you see the final outcome of your community effort. And as you can see here, we couldn't let go of our baby. That was, you know, we all felt our energy, our love is in this altar. And it is for me very, you know, this is how we built our buildings in the past. We didn't commission it to someone, you know, we helped building each other's homes, and we were part of the neighborhood in a completely different way than today. You know, we could remember, I was there when we lifted the beam to the roof, or I helped plastering, and I helped cooking for for the crowd. So you're really part of the neighborhood, and this is something that we lost. And I think architecture and the building process has really the power to bring people together. You can build up a structure, and at the same time, you build up a community. You cannot build alone. You always do this in a team, and you always have this awareness of the others. You know, where are they standing? Is there danger? Do they need help? There's always an awareness, a mutual awareness, and that really bonds people together. And this picture is quite symbolic to me, with all the gold in the background. You know, in our parts of the society, or in our parts of the world, we're not really lacking material things, but what we lack is good relationships amongst each other, and also purpose that we share, and something, you know, a community effort. And this is what the building process can bring us. And earth is more precious than gold. Gold cannot feed us, gold cannot build us a house, but earth can give us shelter, and earth can feed us. And that's why it's the most precious material that we have, and we really need to take care of it. Form follows function, we all learned, and it's such a mantra that it got kind of branded in our brains. But the current global challenges that we have, the climate change, this growing social injustice, is nothing that we can solve on a merely functional level. And sustainability is not a matter of technology, money resources, material resources, know-how. No, it's a matter of an inner Haltung, of an inner feeling. And what I see these days is that more and more we base our design decisions on the feeling of fear and the feeling of greed. And the only thing that is stronger than fear is love. And when we build out of love towards the others and towards our nature, our beautiful planet, the sustainability happens in a completely natural way. So I hope that we exchange this mantra of form follows function into form follows love. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much. For me personally, your work resonates a lot, because I think you're redefining the role of an architect. When you take all these dimensions into consideration, from the extraction of the material to all the users who are participating to the construction, the symbolic dimension, the cultural dimension, the social, the economic dimension. And this is why we're trying to show to our students the meaning of these values that are becoming more and more necessary in our world today. So anyone questions? They're a bit shy. So I have a question. So we saw how the low tech can do marvels, because all the examples that you showed us, most of them are from low tech. I wanted to see if you're considering the new technology, and how do you see the future of urban architecture in relationship to these new tools and new technologies that are emerging today?
Yeah, the beautiful thing is that you can do that you can apply high tech and you can apply low tech, and you can mix the two together, which is very unusual. And that makes it really like a globally applicable, because normally, you know, we tend towards a sustainability that again is only affordable for parts of the world's population. And this one is really, building with clay is really affordable by everyone. And I think, you know, that we need probably a mix of those things. Like, for example, what we do right now is that we have lots of craftsmanship involved in Europe, or high tech, but it still needs a lot of craftsmanship. You know, joining all these blocks, it's then handwork, it's craftsmanship, but the heavy work is taken over by machinery, and I think that's fair. You know, that we have machines to take over the heavy, the more exhausting part of the work, but then not to make everything so automized that we don't need people anymore, because I think this is what we need. We need this process to bond us together, and we need also psychologically this feeling, we have accomplished something, to stand in front of a building where hey, you put your hands into it, you put your energy into it. It's so uplifting. So I think we need both of it, but in order to scale up fast, and we need to scale up fast, we need the technologies. But it always, depends on the context. If you have machinery to lift those things, those blocks, if you have the cranes, fine. If you don't have those machinery, you can also do it in a low-tech way, and it's not excluding anyone. That's what I really like a lot about Earth. So, and what is important in more industrialized places is that we get truthful costs of materials. Right now, craftsmanship, human energy is highly taxed. We have the social taxes on that, and machinery is not taxed, and CO2 is not properly taxed. Energy from fossil fuels is not properly taxed. So craftsmanship has become very expensive in our parts of the world. Why? It is way cheaper to buy a product that is built in China than going to a craftsman next door and asking to build something out of local materials. And that is something that is not natural, not logic, and is of course a clear strategy behind from the industry. And we need to speak out and ask for truthful prices of materials, where with every building material that you buy, you need to include the costs on the future generations. You need to include the costs on the environment. You need to, how easily a material can be recycled, how much harm does it leave when it's not in use anymore, how easy can it degrade, how, is it toxic to the water, is it toxic even to the people who live inside. All these things need to be added to the price, and because these are real costs. But what's happening now is that we shift these costs to the global community and to the future generations.
Question? No? One last question. What do you think about the 3D printed clay architecture?
This is a boys with toys thing. People are so fascinated by this thing. You take an old material, you take new technology, and you do it. But, you lose this enormous power of the process. This, you could be standing in front of it and seeing the computer doing this thing. I don't necessarily think that it goes faster with this 3D printed thing. And it is more prone to failure. And most of all, you miss out the joy of building. And then, again, the question, who gets the profit? Cui bono? The owner of the machinery gets the profit, whereas you could hire people to do that, and the profit is shared. So I'm skeptical also, because a lot of structures that are called earthen structures, 3D printed and so on, most of them have a lot of chemical additives in it to make this possible. So I'm skeptical, and I think we just we are, that's also a bit the male thinking. We're so fascinated with technology, so fascinated, but we forget the tactile things, and we forget the joy of the making. And I think that's something that, as a human being, we have it part of our DNA that we want to build. Every child plays building, either with branches, with clay, with blankets, with cardboards. Everyone, no matter if it's a future architect or not, we play building. And it's part of our human DNA. Just as every animal builds the nest, we also want to build. And this urge is there. The urge for participation and for building is there. And we need to include that in our designs.
So you're talking about the intelligence of playfulness and the intelligence of the hand.
Yes.
How it. Any question? No. So this is Reem, and Reem is actually an architect, and she's working with earth.
Nice.
So I think she has a question for you.
Hi. I wanted to ask you, what are the challenges that you faced in general? I don't know, I came in late, so I didn't know the location of the buildings you were talking about. But in general, what are challenges you faced with the people, with finding the material? Did you have to get material from far away, or was it always there perfectly, like the amount of clay, sand to use? I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, sourcing the clay is usually not the problem. I mean, it's more that, you know, like I usually go and ask the farmers, and usually it's close by. It's really close by. And then the beautiful thing is that, you know, there are so many different building technologies with clay. So sometimes, you know, you think you would go for rammed earth, and then you see, okay, I need to change the technology because there's simply no stones. So I need to go for cob, for example. I need to go for adobe. So that is sort of every content of the soil has also specific techniques that are going well with that. And this is how usually, you know, you can react on those things. So usually finding the soil is not the problem. What is the problem is to convince, to raise the trust in people that all that you have is actually what you need. It's usually, you know, advertisement tells you all the time you have to buy things in order to, you know, show off, in order to have an identity, you know, you have to consume, and you have to, you know, and then you're getting depending, and to say, no, stop. I'm looking first on what I have available, and how can I do the best out of those resources, and I rely on those, and this is really all that I need. This trust is the most difficult to raise in every context. And then also, of course, the fear, because earth has been branded as an absolutely poor, vulnerable material, and that is the thing, you know, that is something, the image that was created by lobbyism and so on. That image, to counteract that image is a big challenge too. So this only can be done, I think, with really good and also modern architecture, that you say. So I put really all the force in designing something beautiful, that you say, okay, I see the need for showing off. You know, I understand you want to have a building you're proud of, but I'm trying really to bring out the best of the material, to make it as beautiful as possible. So to counteract kind of this fear of having a poor house. And then, of course, it is here in Europe, it's a lot. The biggest struggle is to fit it in the rules and regulations that are designed in a way to prefer certain materials, and to and it's not the natural materials. It's, of course, it's designed in a way, you know, that certain industries get the profit, and this makes it very difficult. This questions of, you know, you only get a stamp of approval if you have a material that, you know, has all these certificates and so on, and local materials vary and are not standardized, and that is also the beauty for that. But that makes it difficult. So these are my biggest struggles.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you think it's hard to adapt these type of structures into cities and more densely populated areas?
No, there is no limit. As I showed the picture of the city of Shibam, so you can go multi-story, you can go in dense, and I think especially in dense cities, it's good because we have divided our city into urban fabric in a way, you know, like buildings, and then we insert parks as these pockets of nature because we long for nature. And what if our buildings are part of nature too? It would just enrich it so much. So what I've seen is that in all the structures, but mostly on the one I didn't show, it was an extension of the, you know, we built a kind of sitting place in front of the Graduate School of Design in Harvard. And the walls that we built there out of framed earth, they were gray and looked like concrete because the clay in Boston is gray. But people were passing by and constantly touching the walls, constantly caressing the walls. And you wouldn't, normally we don't go around our cities and caress the beautiful concrete walls, the glass, the aluminum. We don't do this. But it was so obviously that, you know, we perceive materials not just on a visual level, but also with other senses. And I think it would do our cities so well if we have the feeling we want to touch our buildings, want to feel embraced by those structures. So I think that will bring in a lot of warmth and natural feelings.
Okay. No more questions? All right. You know, Anna, we have a history of urban architecture here in Lebanon.
Yes.
So we're a bit dreaming of having a workshop with you here someday, hopefully soon.
Yes. No, I think it's very important, you know, to learn from the past, and it's always a matter of resilience. Is always to, you know, to take what you have, and it's also a matter of authenticity, because our architecture nowadays becomes so random, and, you know, it looks everywhere the same, and we lose a lot, you know, if we give up using the available natural materials. And I think, you know, there is a longing for this authentic places, and they have such a power and such a, you know, I think we do well to be rooted in our traditions, but of course with a modern touch, so that it resonates with the needs and dreams of current society. But there are no limits to that.
We're trying to remember here and not to forget.
Wonderful.
All right, so I think that will be it. Thank you so much for this very inspiring lecture.
Thank you.
And
It was
we
a
hope
pleasure.
to see you soon here. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.